Right then,
Yeah, we'll go.
let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, as always, to another episode of the RJM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney. How you doing? You all right? Nice one. Here we are again, here in YouTube world, basically delving into the grassroots music industry and beyond, and speaking to interesting people within it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an artist on the rise on his hands today, and we've got Paul Ryan. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hi, mate. How you doing?
How are
You all
you?
right?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm all right. I've got a spot right on the end of my nose, I noticed earlier. So I'll have to CGI that out of this interview because that's not on, is it?
No, that's all right.
It's just
It's not
bloody
going to be
rude.
hard.
Too right. So, so where do we find you today then, Paul?
I'm in Birmingham. So,
Right.
yeah. So, and just in my into my office where
Yeah.
I write a lot of songs and
Yeah.
do a little bit of practicing here and there.
Yeah,
Bit of
nice.
noodling. So,
Birmingham, then I've had quite a lot of people on from Birmingham recently, like the Claws
Yes.
boys. We've had my friends, the Pagans, SOH. I was out with them recently. Loads of bands from Birmingham. There's loads
Yes.
going on. It feels like a really diverse scene going on in Birmingham at the minute. How do you feel about what you see around you within Birmingham then?
well, it's funny. I was actually going to talk to you about this because at the moment there are a lot of artists and a lot of bands coming out of Birmingham that are doing really well across the country at the moment. It's a strange but a lovely kind of thing because we've had all of this kind of spotlight on us, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant, really. It's a difficult thing to explain because obviously with like Manchester and Liverpool kind of being such a massive part of the birth of so much great music in this country, it's strange because although we've produced great bands, but not probably on the level that you're thinking, but Birmingham's never really been like a centre point. You've never kind of had like 4 or 5 bands come out at one time with like 3 or 4 artists that have really been major. So it's fascinating, really. I mean, and the bands that you mentioned are doing really, really well.
Yeah, I was in Bristol and I saw Big Image. They're from round your way. They're just excellent. Their class. The Assist. I've known those boys for years. There's such a and such a wide variety of music from those bands. They're quite experimental and dancey and indie,
100%.
and they've got a lot of they're mixing quite a lot up. And like the Pagans, the rappy, and I don't know. They're just it's very diverse. The music that's coming out there. It's nice and refreshing. The music coming out of Birmingham, I find at the minute.
100%, yeah. And what's interesting about the bands that you mentioned, especially like the Claws and the Assist, is that they've got a certain style, but they're not afraid to kind of mix it up as well. Yeah. So their music's really enjoyable for that reason. That's one of the reasons why I've kind of really enjoyed what's kind of been going on outside of my little bubble.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so what do you see around you politically and everything else? Because I know when we've spoke to Birmingham bands before, the council have dropped an 8 bollock over the last couple of years. They've gone bust and all that kind of stuff, and it's difficult. It feels like it's quite difficult for economically for people coming out of Birmingham at the minute, just with the with the council problems and that kind of stuff. You tell me, how do you feel about it?
I think when things like this historically happen, normally it gives birth to a lot of brilliant music. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. I think that it has impacted people, not just with this, but with COVID. And there are other things that have affected absolutely everybody. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see a rise in such good music, because society changes for better, for worse. But it always comes through with art, and with all great art, and music's no exception, of course. You often get that, and you get like a renaissance with music. I mean, you kind of saw it with like I mean, I mentioned before about Manchester bands. Like you think of the Smiths in the 1980s and all of the great bands that kind of came through the late 70s, like Joy Division and Magazine. You think that they kind of emerged because of the difficulties and the strifes in society and their local communities, but also what was happening in the country at the time. And it's a very similar thing, you know, and it's a strange kind of time period because of, like I mentioned with COVID and people kind of recovering from that. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of emerged, because, you know, I thought, well, I want to get myself out there. You know, I've been in bands previously, but never kind of done any solo stuff. And COVID has kind of given people a push to kind of do stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the huge benefits to it. But like you say, there are a lot of downsides to everything with, you know, the political side of things.
Well, one
again, that can really give birth to a lot of good things. And, you know, I feel like I've been a key part of that as well.
Punk came out of it, didn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Which was a shame, because I never got the whole punk thing. It was never ever going to be for me, that stuff. But it was great for a lot of people. You know, different scenes come out of different times, I suppose, don't they?
Yeah, of course. And punk gave birth to kind of new wave music, and, you know, the emergence of like New Order and other huge bands like that. They're all massively influenced from that time period, although they're completely different.
Yeah, I'd never got that, because I hear like the Gallagher's talking about the punk scene and being influenced by it. I can't see how they were me. That's just I've got a bit of a mental like gap with punk. It's not for me. Anyway, which, you know, is fine. You know, not everything's for everybody. I've just got a mental block when it comes to being influenced by punk, but that's maybe something I should look into further and delve in and have a deep dive on a different podcast at some point, maybe.
Definitely recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to. Well, tell us a little bit more about you then. So what were you like? Let's rewind a little bit, zoom out, as they say.
Okay.
What were you like at school growing up and that kind of stuff? What did you see around you before you started to get into music?
Well, I was into music when I was at school.
Oh, wow.
And my first guitar was a nylon string, £30 guitar from Selfridges, I think.
Yeah.
And I would just like noodle to the Beatles and, you know, just try and learn as many songs as possible.
And how old are you at this stage?
I was about 13 when I first got my guitar, but I didn't really get into it fully until I left school. When I was at school, I was kind of I suppose I was a bit like a Gallagher. I wasn't an A-star student, you know, but I was interested in football and I was interested in sport, that kind of thing. But music didn't really grab me until I'd left school when I was about 17, 18. And then I was kind of introduced to a lot of, well, I grew up in the 90s, so I was into Oasis and that kind of stuff as well. And Suede and the Manic Street Preachers were they were the first big band that I kind of really got into, and Nirvana as well. So, and then after that, it was just kind of like an education of learning different music and things like that. So,
well, we move forward quite quickly there. I like to hang around time periods a little bit, because I'm just fascinated with everybody's journey. Everybody's different, and I think it's great.
Of course.
Just like being around school, like not necessarily with music. What were the kids like around you at school? Were you like the weirdo with a guitar case and that kind of stuff, or because I felt like sometimes I used to be in a brass band and I used to carry a very uncool instrument around with me all the time, and I got a bit of stick for that kind of stuff. And you know, the cool people around you didn't necessarily appreciate music as much as what I did at the time. That's my like little story. How was it for you? You know, expressing yourself with music, I suppose, is the question.
I think it's a strange thing, because I kind of doubt I kind of moved between different social groups at school.
Right.
And I would talk to all the boys, all the girls, all the footballers, all the music people, all the computer people, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't really discriminate between, like, I wasn't kind of away from like certain groups. It was just like I would just talk to anybody. So, and that's the way I've always been. So,
nice. Okay.
It wasn't a particularly difficult. I quite enjoyed school to a degree, like certain aspects to it. So I don't know. My story's not like of. It wasn't
hurt
really
and anguish.
that.
I'm trying to find a load of like hurt and anguish and stuff. I know. I'm looking for stuff where there isn't.
It wasn't kind of like that. I quite enjoyed the experience. I was lucky in secondary school. It was a good school. So
yeah, fair enough. Right. So secondary school happened. You started noodling around on your nylon guitar. I had a nylon guitar, like a classical one, just like a shitty classical guitar type thing.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah, and then you have to start playing proper guitars, and then you've got to make sure your fingers can deal with it, because that's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different experience, yeah, for sure.
So why the guitar?
I think I was always. I mean, one of the major reasons was Bob Dylan. I remember from a very early age. I mean, I was into David Bowie probably first, but when I got into Bob Dylan's music, it just completely. I don't know. It changed my whole thought process of what music could be and what you could write songs about, like the subject matter. It just fascinated me. Like I'd never heard anything like it before. It's a strange thing because it's a world away from Oasis and the Spice Girls and stuff like that, which is what I grew up around when I was at school. But I remember very early on just kind of like being fascinated with Bowie and Dylan in particular, and guitar kind of always appealed to me as well. I'm not sure why, but I was always fascinated with the idea that you could get different sounds from it, and not you've got so many different types of players and different types of styles. It fascinates me because it's endless. It's just like an endless stream of noise, and they all make different sounds, and I just find the whole thing just fascinating even now. Like
I saw an interview with Noel Gallagher recently, and he said he's still learning how to play guitar. You never stop learning with music either, do you? There's always something else that you can try, or a different sound, or a different size guitar, different set of strings, a different whatever, isn't there? There's just loads of that you can choose from.
Yeah, there's definitely that element, and there's finding what you're comfortable with as well, which might sound really obvious, but it's something that some people just kind of tolerate, and they're like, well, this will do. But once you find something that you're comfortable with, and you really want the sound that you're really going for, it is a real big changer for you as an artist.
How do you find that? What process did you go through to find it?
A lot of trial and error. You've got to kind of open up to the idea of making mistakes being a thing. I think it's very easy in this day and age, especially with social media. People just focus on all the positives. You are going to have setbacks, but they're fundamental as part of your development, because you can really learn a lot more from maybe changing your sound a little bit. Maybe you're not getting exactly how it should be in your mind, and projecting it in front of an audience, or whether it's in a recording studio. The process is kind of like, it's always changing, and that's part of your evolution, whatever pathway that is, and accepting the errors, let's say. I think that's a huge part of your development.
Should the end result always be what you had in your head originally?
No, I think if you have an idea in your mind and you kind of hit it, it's kind of like hitting a target. And if you're kind of there or thereabouts, like you're pretty solid. I think that it's very rare that you can kind of really get the exact sound you want. And if you do, then just stick with that, and and stick to your guns as well. Like, you're obviously going to get negativity and you're going to get criticism, which isn't always a bad thing, but you have to kind of back yourself as well. I kind of think that it comes down to gut instinct when you hear a sound and you think, yeah, that's what I want. And it's an arduous process. It's very strange. I mean, people ask me like quite a lot about like how long it takes to write songs. Yeah. I mean, normally to write a song, it only takes 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
But then the process of recording it and then making it sound exactly how you want it to, and that can take one take, or it can take 50. It depends on what you want, and it depends on the style of the song.
So just rewinding again a little bit, you left school, picked up the guitar. You mentioned that you used to be in some bands as well. So talk me through the previous bands that you were in, and the band names as well, because I'm always interested in old band names for some reason. I've got a little thing for it.
Yeah. So I think I was about 20, and I wasn't a guitarist in the band. I was a bass player.
Yeah.
So I was a bass player in a band called Wiseacre when I was about 20 to 21, 22. And we gigged a few times, and we wrote some songs together. And structurally, it gave me, because I was kind of like the co-lyricist, it kind of gave me the liberation to kind of think that I could do that. Although I wasn't the one kind of putting the music to the words, but the words were kind of always like a key thing for me. And that harkens back to growing up with the likes of Bowie and Dylan, who were like massive influences for me. So but being in a band is so fun, but there's so much politics involved. It's a very different set of challenges as opposed to being an individual artist.
Well, it's very different. You can never get outdone sometimes, can you? You've got to try and get 5 people in a rehearsal room. When I were in a band, that were a nightmare sometimes, and getting other people to share the amount of passion that you've got for music, and trying to influence the rest of the band that are there to have the same kind of passion, because that's not always going to be the case either. Not everybody gives a shit as much as what you do with that kind of stuff. So it's finding the right people around you to have a band for it to even be solid enough to be able to go anywhere. I suppose there's that mushiness that sits within a band too, which is interesting, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it always fascinates me, and I think it's just something that exists. I think it just exists in all bands. You're always going to get some people that are firing on all cylinders, and you might have 1 or 2 people just not on the same wavelength at that time. It's a very strange kind of thing because it's always changing as well.
Yeah.
And you've seen it with even the biggest bands. I mean, even with the Beatles, it was just like there's politics there, and it can get very messy very quickly. And
you only have to watch Get Back, don't you, with the Beatles, and just see.
Yeah.
And it felt like you were sat in the room with them, weren't it? Just watching them just like do their thing. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Watched it?
Yeah,
I've watched it about 5 times all the way through. I'm just obsessed with it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny. You can kind of feel the friction as well. Obviously, it's different. Their kind of position was very different because you think of all that creativity in one room. It's going to get to a stage where you've got 2 or 3 people trying to outdo each other. Tensions are going to be high. Obviously, the creative spark and the end result is phenomenal, but there are other things in between that, in the cracks that speak for themselves, obviously.
Yeah, sure. So what band names then? Give us a couple of examples of what the band names were. Are they still around?
So, I think they're under different names now.
Okay.
This is the problem. I mean, and I've kind of filled in just for like the odd gig here and there.
Okay.
So, Wiseacre was kind of like the first and the only kind of major band that I was in,
right,
really.
Okay.
I've been in other bands, but only kind of like fill in sort of thing. But but what they
not
kind
bad,
of gave me,
it's not a bad band name that. I usually ask because previous band names are appalling, so I just like having a bit of a chuckle at them. But that's a decent band name actually.
Yeah. Do you know we were it was a like alternative band that kind of just kind of very influenced by Nirvana and the Pumpkins and like a lot of music for a lot of American style alternative rock, that kind of thing.
Right, and so what made you go solo then? Sick of it. I'm going on my own.
No, I think fast forward, it was kind of just after COVID, and I was writing a lot of songs. I wrote a lot of songs before, but I was really kind of in a cycle where I had 10, 15 songs, and I thought, you know, I should really start playing these or at least record them. And that's what happened. Like, it was just kind of like an accident where I was in a recording studio and I can't even remember what I was doing. I wasn't there to record, but I was kind of told like, oh, I should record a song. I was playing on guitar called The Divine Sky, which I recorded. It was my first single. And like straight away, people were just like, yeah, that's really good. Like, you know, have you got any other songs sort of thing? So I was like, oh, I better go back in the studio. And then one thing just kind of led to another. I mean, like in 2022, I had like the 3 singles that released, and I started gigging straight away. I started gigging around Birmingham, just pubs and clubs. And, you know, it was all a learning curve. Like when I first started, it was just that just feels like a world away compared to today. And last year when I really started to gig more in London, and I was writing a lot behind the scenes in build up to this album, which will release in November, and that'll have 10 songs on. So, but I've wrote a lot more than that. But it's kind of like a baseline for what I am as an artist. So it's a very exciting time.
So what are you as an artist then?
Well, I'm kind of a combination of many different things. You can kind of hear the sounds. I'm one of those artists that kind of embraces their influences. I think some artists, I don't know what your experience is, but I've spoke to some artists that kind of almost shy away with like who they were kind of influenced by or what kind of sounds they like to feel inspired by. And I think it's more to do with the lyricism. I think when I play live, other people, they'll say to me that, oh, you sound like Dylan, or you sound like the Smiths. I've had quite a bit, Nick Drake. So it's kind of like a culmination of a number of artists. And I suppose people see that through me. I don't know. It's a strange thing. I would say it's like an embodiment of my own influences, but I've kind of pushed it in a different type of direction. So
where do you want that to go? Where do you want it to go?
I think by the time the album's out and that I'm kind of promoting it, I think it's just trying to get that series of songs out to as many people as possible. Yeah. And it's kind of limitless with how far it can go. Because once it's out there and it's released, it's just like it's in the wild, you know, It's there forever. So that's kind of like a dream come true, really. Well, especially for the kind of style of the music, because there's not really many artists that kind of are out there doing that kind of music now. So there's kind of like a hole for me to jump through. So it's just one of those things. I think I didn't go in with any expectation, and I still don't have that expectation. It's just things have happened that have just built over a period of time, and it's taken me to places that, playing places that I never thought I would, and recording songs that I never thought I would. So it's all good. It really is.
Yeah, nice one. So what's been your favourite thing about being out there and performing and writing your own songs? What's been the most enjoyable thing about this thing?
Probably, but do you know, meeting other artists and really hearing their stories and hearing their experiences and their performances, of course. Like, I mean, I'm really lucky. I play in a circuit with Mike Gill in London, and he does open mic nights. And some of the talent that you get through there is just unbelievable. I mean, people play that come from all over the world, and when you hear the influences and you see people playing, it kind of raises your level. And I think that's the thing that I've enjoyed the most is playing, the same night as certain artists that I just thought, like before I wouldn't have been able to kind of hold my own, I suppose. But now you play at such a level, it's just comfortable. It's not something that I find daunting. It's a really strange thing.
Yeah. So what's the biggest pain in the arse about doing what you do?
I don't think that there is one. I mean,
I'm just digging for dirt, mate. I don't know if there's probably not, is there? I'm just like that. I think that, you know.
The thing is that I would say it's a lot easier for an artist like me than it would be to be in a band because, all I do is take a guitar to a venue. That's literally what I do. Yeah. So, and people, they don't really ask questions. I mean, people hear my songs once and they already know they understand the songs. Yeah. So I don't kind of need to explain the process. I mean, when you interview bands or whatever, normally you've got to kind of get a breakdown of what the band's about, what they stand for, their ideas, the philosophy, whereas with my music, it's simple. It's just simple music. Yeah. It might not be simple to play, but, or write, but for me, in my mind, I just play the songs and that's it. And I get off stage and I go home after I've had a couple of beers and whatnot. Yeah. So it's a really enjoyable process because I've kind of let go of all of the old, I wonder what people will think about this. I don't really think in those terms now. I just get on stage and do it.
Yeah. Where do you think the next development area is for you as an artist then?
Well, today's a big step. I mean, with the release this week of Multitudes, it's a huge thing for me because although it's not my best song, it's not the best song that I've ever written, but it gives a different slant of what I am as an artist, and it's a different type of sound. It's a bit riskier than what I'd put out previously. And it's a big step for me artistically to kind of branch out and show everyone that I'm not just writing safe songs. I can really develop and change my sound and the feeling of the sound as well, which is really critical.
Yeah, but it seems to have gone down really well. RGM covered it this week as well. How did you find the review, and be honest?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was really good. Again, like it's a strange thing. I mean, I've had quite a few people get back to me, and everybody just talks about the guitar tone, and the drive of the song. And I've played it live a few times as well in build up to this, and it just gets a really good. It's one of those songs that it's brilliant playing live. It's a brilliant live song, and it has that drive, and people just get it straight away. So I think that's a really important thing, especially when you play like an acoustic guitar, because people are a bit quieter. You can hear every word, sort of thing, in a venue. But
that must be a pain in the arse when people speak in the crowd. That must be one.
My first gig, that was a shock to me that kind of that blew a hole in me really, because I thought, oh, I didn't expect it to be like this. I kind of just expected to rock up and just play my songs and but no challenges sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I've come a long way since then. It doesn't bother me anymore because it just happens. Yeah. So my focus is just on the song. And
if you are in the crowd, I'll say it. So if you are in the crowd and you're talking quite loud when somebody's playing acoustic songs, just get out of there and just go down to a bar somewhere else, because it proper winds. I can't deal with it, mate.
Yeah,
it's rude.
It's hard. It's more difficult. It's weird because it's more difficult playing in front of less people. So if I'm playing in front of 10, 15 people, but there's quite a few people talking, it's more noticeable. Yeah. Whereas if you're in a room with 100 people,
it's humming.
You don't really notice it. And I'm very backwards in a lot of ways because I actually prefer playing in front of a large audience. Like I feel like I play better. Probably because I have to, because I've got to sing louder to hit the back of the room. Yeah. So it might just be that. I don't know. But I'm not one of those people that kind of shies away from the crowd.
Right. So what's coming up next then? I know the album in November. How do you prepare now up to November with knowing that that's brewing and that's like going on in the background there? What stage, what are you going to be up to over the next few months is basically what I'm trying to say.
Right, so I'm currently I'll be in London recording the last couple of tracks. I've just come back from London after recording 2 songs called Ruffians and Violet Rays. Violet Rays I've played live. I played at the Nick Drake gathering last month, and I've played it live a few times over the last year. So I've got about 6 or 7 songs out there, like, already in my in the consciousness of people that follow me, and they'll be on the album. So it's just working on the last couple of tracks, which will just give me enough oomph to get over the line, and they're really good songs as well. Nice. They're really good songs.
And in the meantime, before the album, what have you got? Any gigs that we can announce and share with the people? What's coming up?
No gigs to announce at the moment, but I will be in London again, playing and performing, probably in both open mic circuit. I do think I've got a couple of gigs coming up in Birmingham very soon, so I'll announce them on my socials. So
why London so much?
I don't know. I think it was one of those things that because I met a producer down there, and I've got quite a few friends in London that are in bands and that see me and they're playing. They're like, oh, you should come down. Yeah. So it's always enticing for me. I probably know more people in London than I do in Birmingham, just because of that. Yeah. And obviously working with my producer, and she's absolutely fantastic. I'm really lucky because I've got the best of both worlds. I've got a really brilliant structure and a team of people around me in London, and that's why I've kind of done that. I mean, that's kind of how my name's circulated as fast as it has. Because normally for an artist that plays acoustic, it takes a while. It will take a good while to get a decent following. Whereas for me, it's kind of like, it's a really strange thing. It's like, because people have really taken notice of what I've released so far, but also when I've played live. So,
well, Paul, mate, really appreciate you joining us for the podcast today. It's always enjoyable to meet new people and hear everybody's story, because it's different for everybody. And that's why we enjoy doing this podcast, learning about people's journey.
100%.
Brilliant. So, so you've got loads of exciting things coming up, a few gigs to announce later on, an album in November. Keep busy, mate. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing work, and we wish you all the best, mate, too. Is there anything you'd like to share with the people watching this video or listening on the podcast right now? Is there a message you'd like to leave them before I let you get on with your day?
Yeah, of course. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed the new single, and definitely stay tuned to RGM as well, because they've got some fantastic coverage as well. Nice. So That's my message. I'll probably join you again later this year to promote the album as well. I'll speak to you a bit more about the tracks and stuff.
That's what we love to do. And within the description of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it or watching it, there'll be a link to take you straight to Paul's stuff. Enjoy it, share it, tell the, if you love the tune, put it in your WhatsApp group, send it to your mates, do everything that you need to do. And let's just share Paul's music around with the world. Nice one, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, Paul, I'll let you get off, mate. And I wish you all the best.
Brilliant.
Thanks for joining us. Cheers, pal.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Take care.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my little studio. We're just having a look around. This is where I record loads of good chats. And you know that already because you've just finished one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed it, have a look around. Look at this. There's different videos all around here. New videos that you can enjoy too. I promise you it'll be all right. Nice one. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. See you soon.